Do leadership differently. This is a research project for my work with my clients. It's about leadership innovation, and it focuses on high performers in a highly intense environment, the kind of leaders who know how to perform at peak performance, take care of their own well-being, but are also strong creative problem solvers. I coach people who are strong creative problem solvers in various fields. They work in highly intense environments and they know how to perform at a peak level. And some of them are missing something because we can't see our own selves. Different is better than better. Deconstructing the best leaders in various industries can be of tremendous value to anyone who's seeking to be a better leader themselves. You know that feeling when you feel like you've known someone for a very long time after just meeting them once? Well, that's how I felt during this fun interview with Yoav Oren, the CEO and co-founder of Zoog. Yoav was born in the US and moved to Israel when he was a year old. He has been practicing martial arts for close to 30 years now. He served in a small commando unit in the Israeli army, and towards the end of his service, he was wounded in action, shot by a terrorist at close range. He then moved to China for a while and studied more martial arts. Later, he moved to the US and majored in Eastern Asian Studies from Columbia University. He then returned to China as an official representative of the US government to the World Fair as part of the Student Ambassador Program. Yoav completed his MBA in China. His son was born there too. Today, he is the father of 3 kids and lives in Even Yehuda. Upon his return to Israel, he joined SimilarWeb, where he started the relationships and partnerships with the Chinese market and eventually extended into commercial activity in China, and was responsible for the major deals with some of the Chinese tech giants. Yoav eventually became the chief of staff at the company. A year and a half ago, he had a major itch to start his own business. Today, he is the CEO and co-founder of Zoog. Enter Yoav Oren. Enjoy. Hello, Yoav.
Hi, Didier. How are you?
Oh, Hashem. Hi, nice to see you. There you are.
Yes.
How are you doing today, Yoav?
All is good. How about yourself?
Fantastic.
You're free.
Great. So thank you very much for getting on this call with me. I appreciate your time, and I'm sure the brilliant leaders who are going to be watching this are going to benefit from your fantastic insights.
I hope so.
Great.
So, and in about a year and a half ago, I had this major itch to start my own business, start my own startup, and eventually about a year ago, left SimilarWeb. A year and a half ago, left SimilarWeb, found a great co-founder, Matan, and started working on our startup. That's what I've been doing for the past year and a half.
Which startup is it? What's it called, and what do you do?
The startup is called Zoog, and I won't kind of bore you with all the pivots that we had along the way. But eventually, I guess when the corona broke out and we were all influenced by it, of course, we kind of asked ourselves, how are we experiencing the people who are closest to us? And the most immediate thing, of course, was our children, and how the corona, of course, influenced our children and their ability to communicate with their family members, and even with our parents. That was the most immediate thing. And we kind of noticed that there was a major issue with all of the, of course, video communication became the new mainstream, and that's how people were communicating because we couldn't meet in person. And we just noticed that our kids suffered from these calls. They just couldn't do it. They couldn't do the small talk. They weren't interested in it. And we felt that all parties involved in these calls were just frustrated. Like, my kids were frustrated because I kept on shoving the phone in their face and making them, speak to their grandparents, and they didn't want to do that. My parents were frustrated because they felt like, they were used to having a meaningful relationship with their grandkids, and suddenly they couldn't relate to them.
Sure.
And of course, us as parents, we felt like we needed to bribe our kids just to get them to spend a few minutes on the phone with our parents. And then the flip side, what was interesting about the whole breakout of the pandemic, that as I mentioned, that video communication suddenly became, the new norm, became mainstream. And you have this mass adaptation towards video on all fronts. I mean, the fact that we're doing this interview right now is, via Zoom, and it's cool and we're used to it. It's a testament to that. So you have this, everyone got used to it in the business world and educational world, of course, but also in our family. And we felt that it was a unique opportunity in terms of the receptiveness of the market, the receptiveness of the target audience that we were building this product for. Baby boomers or young grandparents, they were suddenly adapted to video conference calls. But then also we felt that there was all the video, I guess, products out there were very generic. It was kind of like generic. They were kind of like one size fits all. And there wasn't anything that was really solving this cross-generational communication. And that's what we set out to build. So today, Zoog, what we did is, I mean, again, we went through several rounds with this, but today Zoog is an asynchronous communication app, and basically allows any person to record a book into their device. And what we do is we insert your video into the book, and the grandparent or any reader becomes a changing character within the story, with different AR masks and different filters and other digital delights, I guess, or visual delights. We also, in the backstage, we bring the book to life. So we add 3D animation and After Effects to the book. And at the end of this, the grandparent can actually send this, it's a link, so they can send this to the grandkids whenever they want. The grandkids can open this up on any device they want, on their desktops, mobile phones, tablets. It's saved in like a memory archive forever, so the kids can always go back and view these recordings again. And then they can also respond to the grandparents as well. So they can send video responses to the grandparents. So this becomes this communication ping pong back and forth. Yeah.
How many books do you have in your library?
So we have about 40 books in our library right now. We've finished producing 2. We're working on our 3rd run right now. We literally launched a couple months ago. So this is all brand new. We've raised some money from 3 different venture capital firms here in Israel, and we'll probably start our seed round in the next month or so. So it's a busy period, interesting period, all the above. But we're super excited about it, and we're looking forward to bring this this experience to the world.
How many employees do you have?
So we have 7 employees today, including, we also have about 4 interns, and we also have a team of front-end developers in India. So the team is expanding, but we're still small and lean.
Where are you located?
So our offices are in Tel Aviv. So we're in a hybrid mode. So we spend half of our time in Tel Aviv and half the time we work from home.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that we could do that today.
Thanks. Yeah. I think, also it's one of these things that people, we have these preconceptions in our mind of what, work should look like, or what the office life should look like, and you can't get work done. And I think that, people woke up and understood, wow, productivity didn't go down. In a lot of cases, actually went up. And people can work from home. Also a lot of especially in this market in Israel, where it's a very much enterprise B2B software focused market, people, companies are used to saying, no, you can't do enterprise sales via Zoom. It has to be a face-to-face interaction. And lo and behold, people got used to the fact that people can sign hundreds of thousands, $1 million contracts over Zoom. I think it's not going to be a replacement to face-to-face, and I think that people definitely miss that physical interaction. I think there's a lot of benefits. I love the days that we work together in the same room, in the same space. I think it's amazing energy. But on the other hand, I think it's a good balance that we also have that time to work, focus, sit with ourselves, get our tasks done. And I think that hybrid is a good balance. Also for work-life balance in general. So I definitely enjoy it.
There's something crackling, making a background noise by you when you were talking. I don't know what that is. Maybe there's something near your microphone. I don't know. There was something. Okay.
We'll try again. Tell me if it happens again.
Okay, sure. Okay, so thank you very much for that, Byron. By the way, very, very impressive. How old are you, may I ask?
37.
Well, that's the best club in the world.
What's that?
It's the best club in the world, 83.
83. You're 83 as well?
83, best club in the world.
Amazing. Best club in the world. I agree.
And by the way, I also have a little bit of a background in martial arts. I was always fascinated by it. I had the privilege of studying by a master of masters, actually. He's a Hanshi level. I don't know if you're familiar. I studied Ryukyu Kenpo Kubujutsu. And
in Israel or the States?
In Israel, in Jerusalem. And that was an extreme experience. You know, he used to say we were the Cobra Kai of Karate Kid.
Yeah.
That was kind of lethal.
You studied for a long time?
So I did it for actually a very short period of time, but it was extremely intense. I went 6 days a week.
Yeah.
It was at least an hour and a half, if not between an hour and a half to 3 hours a day for a few months. So I did it. It was for about 6 months, I'd say. I did it. It was 6 days a week. It was really.
Why'd you leave?
Why did I leave? Because the class moved to a much farther location from where I was studying at the time, and it was because I was investing so much time. It was taking just the commute would have added so much more time. It just wasn't working out, which was very unfortunate. Later on, a close friend of mine, years later, who studied with me then, he went back to him and became one of his closest confidants, and then he continued to become black belt, and he's became a teacher himself. But I did not follow that path, although I was fascinated by it, and it was nuts. Like I'll just share with you one thing. The first lesson, we didn't know what to expect, and the sensei wasn't even there. It was just his the madrich was there, and after the craziest warm up, he tore us apart. We stood in a line, and then he says, "Okay, if someone catches you by the shirt like this, how do you kill him?"
Yeah.
And we look at each other. How do you kill him? So one of the new guys like ourselves asked him, "What do you mean kill him? He just caught you by the shirt." He said, "Well, if you learn how to kill him, you know how to tone it back. And just in case you actually need to kill him, you'll know how to."
Okay.
So it wasn't like that every class.
It sounds like the Cobra Kai, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very, very different mentality. It was like you had to fill out a form when you join the class, and one of the questions was, why do you want to study martial arts? I mean, it was like multiple choices, and one of them was like better confidence, to focus better, and all this. And he said, "I'm looking for the ones who say I want to beat the crap out of bad guys."
Okay.
That's what I'm looking for, right? He'll take anyone, but I'm looking for those guys. It's not he would accept anything, but that's what it was a bit of a joke. The guy was like ex-special forces. He was a bit of a nut, but I learned a lot from him, and it was an unbelievable experience to learn from someone at that level. It was really intense, and I appreciated that time. I think he lives in Faradumim, I believe.
What's his name?
Natan David. He's an older guy. He's probably now, I don't know how old he would be. In his 70s, maybe.
Okay.
He's probably in the 70s. I don't know if he's still active or not, but the guy was a monster. Like, you didn't want to mess with him.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Unbelievable. So let's get started.
Go for it.
Great. What is the hardest thing in business or in life that you have overcome, and what did you learn from that experience?
Oh my God, where do I start?
Pick one.
The hardest thing that I've overcome. I mean, I have a very specific example from my previous job. Even though that I have to say, like, you know, it all changes once you become an entrepreneur. Because once you become an entrepreneur, then every decision you make has direct consequences, not only on yourself personally, but on the entire business, especially at an early stage of a startup, right? So that's something that I deal with on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I'm completely out of my comfort zone. You know, it's every day I'm dealing with things that I've never seen before in my life, and it's my business. Like, there's no one else, you know, the buck stops here. Like, there's no one else I can like defer to. And that to me is, you know, I live that monumental challenge, I guess, on a daily basis. But I have to say, if you want a very specific example, I was working on a very, I don't know, at the time, it's SimilarWeb was the biggest deal the company's ever signed. And it was with huge, one of China's biggest tech companies, with Huawei. And this negotiation was going on for about 10 months, back and forth with different pilots that we had along the way, and different, timelines, and everything was like mapped out perfectly. And it came down to money time, and we were negotiating. I was in Israel, and the guys on the other side of Huawei said to me, "Listen, this isn't working. You have to come see us. Like, get on the plane. Let's get this done." And I remember I packed my bags, left the office, bought a ticket, and that evening I was on a flight to China. And I arrived the next morning. Yes, I arrived the next morning at 8:30. I'm at the offices in Huawei, and it's my sense that this is just, we're gonna seal this deal. Like, we're gonna get this done, right? Biggest deal the company's ever done.
What was your position at the time at SimilarWeb?
What's that?
What was your position at the time?
I was a general manager of China at the time. I get into the office, and what I didn't know, that I entered the longest meeting I've ever had. It was a 17.5-hour long meeting. That it was me in the room with their, director of the department, their procurement director, their lawyer, and I'm on the other line. We have our lawyers in Israel, and VP of sales on the phone on the other side. And what I didn't notice, that everything that we thought we were negotiating over was they wanted to change everything. And there's this, I guess there's this off the record understanding in business that, of course, that if you give someone a contract and they return it with their comments, that's a sum of all their comments for the contract. And based on those comments, you decide what concessions you can make, right? The problem is that after we had this back and forth, they kept on going back to previous points. And we agreed to certain things based on the understanding that this is the sum of all comments. But they wanted to change the terms entirely, change the KPIs and change the deliverables. Like, everything was like changing. This was live. The deal we thought we were signing was not the deal that they wanted to do. And this is happening 17.5 hours straight in a room. And at midnight, everything's done. Contract is finally done. We had I had everyone in Israel going nuts over this. I'm like driving my CFO crazy. The CEO's involved. And at midnight, once the contract is done, they look at me and say to me, "Okay, now we want to talk about the price." Yes, that was my reaction too. And not only do they want to talk about the price, they want over 70% discount on the price that we agreed on about 6 months ago.
Wow.
And at this stage, I was exhausted and furious. And I said to them, "Listen, we can't do this. Let's go to sleep. Let's all sleep on this. Let's reconvene in the morning, discuss this, and go back." And I went to sleep, kind of thinking, okay, this is, I was like back and forth. On one hand, I thought, oh my God, I can't believe we put all this work done, and they're going to kill us. But on the other hand, I had this like emunah that we're going to, we're going to get this done. Like, I really believe that they needed the product that's going to work. Next morning, I'm there first thing in the morning, get in the room. They're not budging, right? They're not moving. This is what we want. And I get on the phone with my CFO and the CEO and VP of sales. And they said to me, "Yoav, it's your call. Like, either way, it was going to be a great deal. It's your call." And this is 2 days before Yom Kippur. And I look at I tell my CFO and lawyer, I say to him, and this also, it's not only a big deal, it's a big deal for me, because I make significant commission, like more than I've ever made in my life here on the line. And I said to my CFO on the line, I said to him, we need to walk away. And it was a very, very hard decision, but I felt that that was the right thing for us as a business, the right thing to do as a company, regardless of what it meant to me personally. And I think it took, it took guts. And I right from there, I said to them, guys, we can't do this. I remember their lawyers' their faces were just like, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe, here's this small Israeli startup saying no to the biggest company in China. And after they spent, their lawyers spent 17 hours in the room with me, not a small deal. And I left from there right to the airport and got on a plane, arrived in the eve of Yom Kippur. It was heartbreaking. And, that was the first part of the story. What we did is, after that, a few minutes later, I reached out again to my original point of contact there. And I reached out randomly. It was I just said I need to have just this random question. I literally searched on LinkedIn for people who worked in Huawei. And I sent her hey, do you know this person? Can you make an introduction for me? Very I didn't even need to speak to this person. I just wanted some way for me to interact with her. And we started talking. And she said to me, you know what, by the way, there's a big part of our analysis that we can't do without you. Oh, I said, okay, that's interesting. And then we kind of got warm again. And it was clear to me that we had to get them off their tree in a respective manner and get ourselves off the tree in the respective manner and try to see how we can make the ends meet. And 2 months later, we were able to seal the deal and sign, at the time, the biggest deal in the company's history. So that was, I guess, a very specific example to your question of something that was difficult. We overcame. In the end of the day, we prevailed. It could have gone both ways. At the time, I thought that we were going to lose it entirely. But of course, I was happy with the outcome.
What did you learn from that experience?
A lot. I learned that first of all, it's a hard lesson. I think that one of the things that I like about China, but is also very difficult for me, is that I keep on learning how much I don't know about China. Even though I've spent so much time there and I speak the language and I've lived with the people and intimately, it's not just been about business for me. It's been about the love of the culture, and I've invested in the culture. Spent significant time studying martial arts and calligraphy in China and Chinese philosophy and history. And I've really embedded myself in the Chinese culture. And with all that, I'm still humbled by the fact that I don't know a lot. And I guess I think that I've learned that I love the fact that even though there was a lot of money involved, I was able to make the right decision for the company. I think it was a very important thing. I think it was a very important signal to the leadership of the company as well. I learned from a leadership perspective to trust your people, even though there's consequences for the company, but you need to be able to trust your people and give them the ability and the strength to make decisions that they think is right, even if the company loses. I think it's the fact that they gave me that confidence that I was able to make the decision on my own was a major lesson for me as a future CEO. And besides that, of course, I kept on learning things about how to work with China, but that's beside the point. I think those were the two major personal learnings that I took out of this.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. Now, what do most people do in business that you do differently? And does that help you thrive or struggle?
I think, كل من لم يسكالدي. And I've learned from both of my teachers in martial arts, my professors in university, and from my bosses in business. And I'm very, and I guess it's more of it's the martial artist inside me of knowing, how to look at situations from a different perspective and seeing it in a greater context. So I know when I look at a leader or I look at a teacher, I know what aspects of the teachings I can take and what aspects are simply not me and I'm not going to do. This is, and I learn from it. I look at it from a learning perspective and say, okay, I see this, I recognize this trait. And I also can see things that are good, but I'm very honest with myself that this is not my style. And I try to be very, very true to myself and to I guess to I try not to be someone that I'm not.
Hmm.
But I'm also very much aware of the things that I'm not good at. And I try to be very honest, both with myself and with my team. It's not that I don't try to put on an act. I don't try to play too tough or to this, because it's not who I am. I know when to demand what to demand, but I'm also, I think, just generally, I like being with people. I'm a warm person, and I try to bring that to the table as much as I can.
Great. What would be the single most important lesson you have learned on your leadership journey?
It's really hard to kind of drill this down to like a single lesson. I think that, you know, at a leadership level, especially I guess at the CEO chair, it's probably the most lonely position in the world, right? Because you're always hiring people who are relevant at the stage of the company that you're at, right? So I'm always hiring people who are supposedly better, significantly better than I am, or significantly have more experience than I do in their respective, I guess, disciplines, right? But I don't change. I'm still the same Yoav. I'm still the same person, and I have to always like continue learning and developing with the company. So I have to keep up, right? It's not the people that I need to keep up with the business. So I think, one of the things that I've learned is that I have to be it's a lonely position. Therefore, if you have a co-founder, which I recommend to have a partner in this, then to be brutally honest about, I guess, about things that you're not good at or things that you need help with. And it's not easy. It's something that I'm always working on. How do I share kind of my uncertainties with my co-founder, and with all the fear. But I think that when I come and when I'm open with him, I think that it's something that in any way strengthens our relationship and strengthens me ultimately, because he knows how to fill in certain gaps that I'm
Hmm.
not good at. Second thing is continue learning. So as I mentioned, I'm always out of my comfort zone, and I'm always need to see how I can continue learning. I don't have to be the best at everything, but I need to have the basic knowledge in order to help and provide certain feedback about the different disciplines within the business. So I think that A, being honest with your co-founder, and B, always develop, always continue learning.
Nice. What would you like to accomplish that may look impossible right now, but if it were achieved, would change everything?
So naturally, I'm focused on the success of the business, and that means growing it significantly. We have a huge target market that we're looking to target. It's on one hand, it's a super interesting target audience, right? It's if we're focusing on those young grandparents, the baby boomers, as we even define them. It's a huge audience, but it's an audience that's very interesting. It has a very similar digital experience as we do, but they don't get a lot of love from developers. So most developers in the consumer space usually develop for younger generations. And a lot of times these baby boomers inherit technologies.
Hmm.
So we're looking to achieve the fact that we're building a consumer product that's meant for them, that's built for them. There's a lot of things that I want to see happening with the way that they interact and engage with technology. We're also, helping them become content creators, which I'm super excited about. And I think that if we're able to really make a dent there and bring this generation and not only develop a product for them, but help them become content creators. And through that content, help really strengthen their bond, their relationships with their families. I think it's a huge achievement. So that's what I'm focused on in terms of like our vision, our mission for the company. But naturally, I want the company to be a success, right? We're in this, where
Yeah.
we are here to do good in the world, but I definitely want the company to succeed. And that means, bringing it to multiple markets. We're starting off with the US, but I'm looking to expand globally. So naturally, that is my focus. I want the company to be a huge success, not only for us personally, but of course, for the segment and also for the country. It's something that Matan and I are deeply passionate about, and we want the company to not only be a success but to be a beacon for Israeli consumer companies as well.
That's great. I love it. I love the mission. What's one truth that you've held back that you know the world needs to hear?
That I held back? Well, I didn't hold anything back from my co-founder. And it's one of the things we did in the beginning. We actually sat together because we're not childhood friends. We met through a mutual acquaintance who connected us. And we had to kind of like sit down and learn very fast. We had to have like a crash Yoav crash Matan course very fast to learn everything. And we did this drill of 50 questions, 50 like very intimate, revealing questions about ourselves. And we each sat down, we had homework at home, and we had to like type this out, each one of these questions. And we sat together and we read each other our answers to each question. This took about 2 days, 2 intense days. And it was, on one hand, it was scary because on one hand, I'm trying to sell myself to this person, that I am the right person that he should leave his job for and, jump in the deep end. And we're not young entrepreneurs. We're not in our 20s, right? So we don't have, our margin for error is slim. We're both parents. We don't have a lot of time to waste. So we kind of like need to hit the ground running. On one hand, I need to sell myself to him and to give him the confidence that I'm the leader that he needs. But on the other hand, I also want to be honest with him about things that I am, uncertainties that I have. So I think that, I have, first of all, so I have learning disabilities that I've struggled with my entire life. I have ADHD. As a kid, I was on Ritalin. I had, and it was something that it's been a struggle all my life. It's something that I had to deal with all my life and throughout college and even today. And that, I guess, is I guess it's a revealing truth that, I think that a lot of people have different uncertainties or things that they're good at or things that they're not good at, things that they're actually absolutely terrified from. I think being honest about them, I think is a huge step towards dealing with it. And I think that once you're out with it, also it doesn't become a secret. People are aware of it, and they are much more tolerant to working with you on helping you, rather than, oh my God, why is he not solving this? Because they don't know. So I think like coming out with that, I think it was something that was important for me to share with Matan, and of course I'm happy to share it with the world.
Fantastic. That's a very important message because a lot of people struggle with a couple of things that you mentioned. One is being open and vulnerable, and that is a very powerful tool actually in leadership. And with putting a limit on it, but the more vulnerable you become with your team, the more powerful of a leader you will become.
I agree. And it's hard, right? It's hard showing vulnerability. I think as human beings, it's one of these things that it's hard for us. As a martial artist, it's hard for me. But it's something that I greatly believe in, and it's something that I live by. Actually, I've done it a lot of times, even in the martial arts. I as being a martial artist is one of the things that I enjoy the most is actually putting on a white belt and starting something completely new that I've never tried before. I did this several times. I've done this recently. About 2 years ago, I started studying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I've never done any grappling on the floor, and I got my ass kicked the first year or two by people who are significantly younger than I am. Here I am, I'm the black belt, schmalpa, whatever. But it's something that I greatly enjoy. It's a humbling experience. Come and saying, yeah, I'm a white belt, Hineni, like teach me everything. It's all good. So I think it's something that I believe in, and I try to bring to my work environment as well.
That's amazing. That's really powerful. And I really appreciate you sharing that because I believe a lot of people need to hear this type of message. So thank you very much for your time and for your invaluable insights.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Didier.